Hi everybody. I'm happy to report that I've got my computer working. It's actually my husband's I'm using, and I'm going to finish reading Eoin Colfer, his book Half Moon Investigations. So I'm starting in the middle of a chapter because I had to stop in the middle of one last time I read. Red hefted the spike and crossed to the door. "Shine the light here, Half Moon." I shone the beam on the door. There was a damp line across the center. "That must be where the bolt is," I said. "Water gets trapped behind it and seeps through over the years." "Oh, the brains," said Red, insincerely, I suspect. He placed the fat end of the horn against the water-marked edge and drew it slowly to the left. "Try it," he ordered, stepping back. I pushed. No joy. "No joy," I said. Red swore. Then, "Stupid, stupid idea. Making magnets. We need something else, Half Moon." "There is nothing else, Red. Try again." Muttering choice phrases, Red did so, and miraculously, amazingly, unbelievably, on the other side of the door, the bolt started to scrape back. "Slowly now, slow. Don't lose it." "What are you, an expert? Do this every day, do you?" "Just go slow. Shut up for once." It occurred to me then that I had just told a sharky holding a spike to shut up. "Your negative energy is interfering with the magnetic flow," I said pathetically. "Grrr," said Red. Growling was not good, but it was better than pounding. He went slowly, drawing the bolt back inch by inch. We could hear it scraping along the outside of the door like a metal thing scraping along a wood thing. Finally there was a clunk, and the door sagged a fraction. "Open," said Red. I'm finding this difficult to believe. We pulled open the door, and there was May, with one hand on the bolt. "April is crazy," she said simply, "so I snuck back here to let you out." I squinted at her. "Did you pull back that bolt yourself, or did an invisible force help you?" May looked at me in a way that made me realize how stupid that question sounded. "I pulled it back," she said. "Maybe April is right after all. Maybe all boys are stupid and smelly. You look terrible, by the way. Your head is too big for your body." "I know another boy like that." I grabbed the horn. "I have a big head because of all the brains in there. I magnetized this horn, didn't I?" May took the horn and placed it against the cellar's metal wall. It didn't stick, not even for a second. Clang! "Possibly I should have tried that," I said, mortified to be outthought by a 10-year-old. "You and your partner better hurry if you want to save Herod. April has talked her dad into going over to Principal Quinn's. They're on the way right now." Red was off like a greyhound after a rabbit. "Thanks," I muttered, "and keep an open mind on the magnetic thing. You never know, it might have been a factor." I ran after Red, May's mocking laughter ringing in my ears. Mrs. Quinn lived in a townhouse near Locke's railroad station. She came from a long line of teachers, but was the first in her family to have reached the exalted status of head mistress. Mrs. Quinn credited this to her people skills, no-nonsense approach to discipline, and having the local chief inspector for a husband. By the time Red and I arrived on the bike, the Devereaux four-wheel drive was already parked in the driveway. Even worse, there was a police car parked in front of it. Red skidded to a halt, resting his elbows on the handlebars. "Too late," he said between puffs. "Mrs. Quinn has already called in the cavalry." I agreed. "I'm sure April's father insisted on it. Herod is being accused of assault." We stashed the bikes behind a neighbor's wall and crept around the back where Mrs. Quinn was entertaining her guests on the patio. At least we could hear what was being said. We crawled across the garden on our bellies, hiding below the lip of the deck. I raised my head just enough to spy on the proceedings through the fence uprights. April, Mercedes, Mr. Devereaux, and Sergeant Mert Horahan were sitting around a pine patio table. Mrs. Quinn was pouring tumblers of cloudy lemonade. April and Mercedes were back in pink mode. "I asked the girls to wait until you arrived, Sergeant," said Mrs. Quinn. "This is a serious matter. Mr. Devereaux thought we needed police presence, and Francis is away at a conference. How do you like the lemonade?" Mert had been trying to avoid drinking what was in his tumbler. He took a swig and coughed most of it back in his glass. He sputtered. "That tastes like, that went down the wrong way. Lovely, a bit tart, but lovely, thank you." Mrs. Quinn swirled the mixture around in the base of the jug. There were lumps floating in the hazy liquid. "Another drop, Sergeant?" No, I'm on duty. Anyway, I have a code 43-7 waiting for me in the station. So, if we could get on... I happen to know that a 43-7 was a maternity leave request form. "Of course, Sergeant. Criminals never sleep, huh?" "Well, you know Mr. Devereaux." "Evening, sir." "Sergeant." "Mr. Devereaux brought the girls over. It seems they were afraid to come to me at school in case Roddy Sharkey would see them." "Red?" "No, his brother Roddy. Herod, if you can believe it." Mert took out his notebook. "Oh, I can believe it, just about anything, of Master Herod Sharkey. We've had words." "His mind is already made up," whispered Red. "We have to go in there, give ourselves up, tell Horahan what really happened." I tugged Red's sleeve. "Wait, that won't help anyone." Red shrugged me off. "Maybe not, but I have to try. I promised." "1 minute," I said desperately. "Give me a minute. If I don't come up with something, then we'll go in." Red settled back down reluctantly. 1 minute, and I hope this plan is better than the magnetism one. I had a feeling that I would be hearing the magnetism unicorn horn for quite some time. I returned my attention to the patio. April was giving Mert the big, round angel eyes. "Mercedes was crying at our sleepover, Sergeant. It was pink night." "We're all in pink because it's what girls do, and we're just like any other girls." Mert cleared his throat. "Pink night? Is that why I came over here? I had better things to be doing. I promised Art Fowler I'd check his vending warehouse for that prowler that's been spotted. So I do have somewhere to go tonight." Now, Sergeant," objected Mr. Devereaux, "be patient. They're only kids." Mert had heard too many sob stories to be a soft touch. "I'm a busy man, sir. Let's hear what the girls have to say and see what has to be done about it." "April?" "Well, it's not me, really. It's Mercedes who had the problem." "I'll let her tell you. Mercedes?" Mercedes stood, walked with slow, deliberate steps to a better vantage point. She cleared her throat and flicked her hair, preparing herself to repeat the performance we had seen in the unicorn room. The performance! I pulled my notebook out, flipped it to my unicorn room notes. I had written down Mercedes' entire routine. I scrawled a cell phone number on the notepad, then passed it to Red. "Text this page to that number, quickly." "Why am I—" "Quickly," I hissed. "No time." Mercedes was shaking out her fingers. "Shake, shake, shake. Silly super sausages," she said automatically. This surprised the adults somewhat. "Excuse me?" said Bert. "She's nervous," said April hurriedly. "And upset, too. Isn't that right?" "Yes," agreed Mercedes with tears in her eyes. My puppy got eaten by a wolf. Mert rolled his eyes. Right, I'm off. Thanks for the wild goose chase, Mrs. Quinn. No, Sergeant, I'm ready now, please. One more chance, and I don't want to hear the word pink sausages or wolf. Mercedes took a deep breath to speak, and Mert's phone beeped. That was quick, I said, startled. First sentence only, said Red, without looking up from the screen. I'm going to send it in bursts. Mert took out his phone. Keep going there, Mercedes. I'm a trained professional. I can read text and listen to sausage stories all at the same time. Oh, Principal, gushed Mercedes, I can't tell. My good and responsible friend April made me come here, but he will kill me if I tell. I suppose you mean Herod Sharkey, said Mrs. Quinn, straying from the script. Mert was absently reading his text message when Mercedes' words penetrated. He suddenly sat bolt upright in his chair. What did you just say? Said the policeman, then caught himself. Nothing. Go on, keep going. Mercedes dragged at her cheeks, leaving red finger marks. Herod Sharkey. Oh no, I've said his name. He'll know. That boy is the devil. I know who it is, Mercedes. You told me that already. Mert opened another text. Mercedes continued with the prepared monologue. Please, Principal Quinn, you're a woman. You understand how it is in this man's world. We suffer in silence. Mrs. Quinn was confused. What are you talking about, girl? We suffer in silence? Mercedes dramatically and again with much wincing revealed the bruises on her arm. He gave me a skin burn, Principal Quinn. He thinks it's funny. There were tears rolling down Mercedes' cheeks as she said this. But Mert was not impressed. He was reading the exact same words on his screen. This was obviously an act. He nailed Mercedes with his best bad cop stare. What is going on here? One chance, start talking. Mr. Devereaux rose to his feet, knocking a glass of congealed lemonade over. Sergeant Hurahan, how dare you talk to this poor girl in that tone? I dare, sir, retorted Mert very theatrically, because this girl is reading from a script. The same script that someone has just texted to me. Someone with my cell number. Mert paused. He was no fool. Someone who can't show himself for some reason. He looked around. Someone who's running his own investigation. Red and I ducked low, wriggling into the mud. Mr. Devereaux climbed up on his high horse. Just what are you suggesting, Sergeant? You're not saying that somehow my little girl is involved in this deception? Mert's phone beeped a final time. That's exactly what I'm saying, sir, and my source informs me that this isn't the first time. My text buddy advises me to take a look at April's clipboard, which is hidden behind the headboard of her bed. So now April is the ringleader. Ridiculous. You can search behind any headboard you like. Trust me, my little girl does not hide clipboards. She has no need to. We're a very open family. Mercedes' lips were quivering. Boffy, she blurted. April pinched her friend's arm cruelly. Quiet. Boffy threw me, sobbed Mercedes. You total idiot, snapped April. You are so like a boy. They have nothing. Nothing. Mercedes was on a blubbery roll. I didn't want to do it, Mademoiselle President. I meant April said we could get rid of Herod the way we got rid of Ernie and Jimin and Carmel. April said that Boffy wouldn't get in trouble. Mert was puzzled. Who is this Boffy person? My pony. She threw me and I bruised my arm. Now Mrs. Quinn was involved. You got rid of Ernie and Jimin? Mercedes folded completely. April did it. She made us swear not to say anything. April made me take the iPod and then she planted the money on Ernie. What about Jimin? You couldn't have done that. It was his voice on the school loudspeaker. April couldn't resist explaining. Jimin is so stupid he couldn't give you a rhyme for a cat. We simply had him read a long passage into a computer microphone, then edit it down. He was happy to do it for a minute's attention. Mrs. Quinn was looking less like a gracious host and more like an irate headmistress. And Carmel's little present on my doorstep? Mercedes blushed. Poppy did that. April crossed her legs at the knees. This is so frustrating. Her moment of anger was over, and now she had to talk her way out of this situation. Surely you understand, Mrs. Quinn. I had to get rid of the boys. They were interfering with our education. Mr. Devereux slumped against the wall. Oh, my goodness, my mother was right. She's become a spoiled monster. He straightened. Right, young lady, this is the final straw. You are going to do whatever it takes to undo whatever it is that you have done. April actually sneered. Oh, really, Daddy? Shouldn't you check with Mommy before hauling out punishments? Mert slammed his palms on the table. Quiet, all of you. It seems as though a crime has been committed here, so this is a police matter. I need to see that clipboard, Mr. Devereux. Any objections? April stuck out her lip. You need to check with Mommy before answering. I do not need to check anything, shouted her father. You have my full permission to see whatever you like, Sergeant. No warrant necessary. Mert pocketed his phone. Excellent. I will be around early tomorrow about 8:30. He turned to Mrs. Quinn. And if I were you, I'd be begging those boys you expelled to come back before their parents get themselves a lawyer. April was dumbstruck for about half a second. I just do not believe this, she shrieked. You should be thanking me. You should be giving me a medal. I have made your jobs easier by 1,000,000%. Mert was not in the mood. If I were you, Missy, I'd shut my trap before my blood pressure gets any more elevated. April paled as though physically slapped. Did you hear that, Daddy? He told me to shut my trap. Are you going to let a mere sergeant talk to me that way? Don't you play golf with Chief Quinn? April's dad wagged a finger at Mert. Really, officer, she's just a child, a baby, really. I hardly think. Then his resolve returned. He took a cell phone number from his pocket, dialed a number, and waited. Hello, it's me, he said when the person on the other end picked up. How would you like a visitor? Yes, what we talked about. I'd say a month. Oh, right. Right away. The sooner, the better. Mr. Devereux pocketed his phone. Right, Missy, he said, trying for the same impatient tone that Mert had used. Trying, but not succeeding. Mr. Devereux sounded a note below, terrified. After Sergeant Horahan has finished with you, providing you are not in a jail cell somewhere. April cupped her mouth. Hello! Earth calling father, she said brazenly. I'm a minor, remember? This latest insult gave April's dad courage. Well, good. We won't have the jail problem then, which is just as well because you'll be away on a vacation for a month. April's brazen look fell away. Where? Mr. Devereux squared his shoulders resolutely. Your grandmother's. April screamed long and shrill. Granny's! The farm! But they give me chores. There's no TV or internet. Good, said Mr. Devereux a bit shakily. I felt that the sooner April got on that bus, the better, before her father lost his resolve. You don't mind if April misses some school, do you, headmistress? Mrs. Quinn seemed occupied. Now I'll have to change those boys' pictures in their files. April's too. I had her down as a little angel, but that was all wrong. I never had to change a picture before. I'll take that as a no. Mercedes patted April's shoulder. Don't worry, I'll chair the meetings and I'll take question time for you. April slapped away her friend's hand. I am the president. Nobody chairs the meetings but me. She stood straightening her pink corduroy skirt. I'm just going to leave now. You grown-ups need a while to think about your decision. Mr. Devereux's nostrils flared. You are going nowhere. I'm putting my foot down this time. April walked off the patio. Of course you are, like the last million times. You get back here, shouted Mr. Devereux with a hint of desperation in his voice. You are not in control here, April. Mert was losing patience fast. I have somewhere else to be, sir, so either you control your little girl or I will. The adults followed April around the side of the house to where the cars were parked. Red and I crept out from behind the decking to watch the action. April had climbed into the family car and locked the door behind her. Her little face was wrinkled with determined fury. Her father rapped on the window. Open the door, April, right now. April wrapped her thin fingers around the wheel. I'm going home, Daddy. You can come when you calm down. This statement did nothing to calm Daddy down. You're what? In my car? You don't even know how to drive. I swear, if you put so much as a fingerprint on my baby, you'll spend the next year at your mother's. At my mother's. Obviously, the car was Mr. Devereux's weak spot. April was not impressed. Oh, grow up, Daddy. It's just a hunk of metal. But you don't know how to drive, shouted Mr. Devereux, the tendon's taunt on his neck. How hard can it be? April said, turning the key which her father had thoughtfully left in the ignition. I've watched you 1,000 times. April, turn off the engine. Mert thought all of this was hilarious until he noticed the squad car was directly in April's path. Now listen here, Missy, he said sternly. But April couldn't see or hear him. The engine noise smothered his words. April wrestled the automatic gear stick to drive and let off the handbrake. 2 seconds later, the Devereux four-wheel drive rolled into Mert's squad car at 10 miles an hour. Plenty fast enough to do almost 12,000 euros worth of damage. April had just enough time to see the looks on the adults' faces before the airbag wrapped itself around her. We return. Chapter 12, The Promise. We return to Ches Sharkey, flushed with victory, though Red may have been flushed from carrying me on the back of his bike all day. Jeannie was at my computer again, downloading songs from an internet pirate site. That's illegal, I said. So are you, she said. A good point. Where's Papa? Asked Red a little nervously. He had gotten himself all psyched up to talk about the promise he'd made to his mother. Jeannie slipped a recordable CD into the drive. He's out working. Where? I can't talk in front of the NERD. I rolled my eyes. I can spell, you know. Really? Then GETLOST. Red squeezed his head between Jeannie and the screen. Where is he? I need to know. Jeannie sighed. Very well, my annoying little brother. He's at the vending machine warehouse. Papa's been scoping it out for a few days now. Vending? That was the second time I had heard that word recently. It was unusual to hear such an uncommon word twice. Mert had said it earlier tonight. He had promised to check the vending warehouse. Someone had been hanging around. A prowler. Mert could very well catch Papa in the act. We have to stop them. Should I have said that? Papa was committing a crime. I was on the side of law and order, wasn't I? But Red was my friend. and his family was in danger. I tugged Red's sleeve. We need to go now and stop him. Jeanie folded her arms. Here we go, time for the piglet detective to deliver a lecture. The world is not black and white, Half Moon. Some of us do just fine in the gray areas. Sergeant Mert Horahan is on his way to check out the vending warehouse right now, remember? Suddenly Red did remember. The memory turned him whiter than a nervous ghost. We have to go, he said, right now. The quickest route to the Lock Industry Estate was cross-country. We sprinted through several gardens and across a wasteland of discarded machine parts, heading for the orange glow of the estate street lamps. The farther we went, the farther Red pulled away from me. He was in good shape, a sportsman. Running flat out for a mile didn't seem to bother him. Me, I thought I was going to die, and after I died, possibly throw up. I didn't call Red back, though. Speed was more important than brains in this instant. The estate was U-shaped. There were rows of buildings with an entrance on the main the main road. The entire place was lit up like a flying saucer landing site. I imagine they would light those up pretty well. I saw Red tearing across a parking lot, surrounded by several of his own shadows. By the time I caught up, he had located Papa behind the vending machine warehouse. He was wedged into a ditch overlooking the loading yard. Would you like to tell me why I shouldn't go in there? Papa was saying. It was obvious that he was not happy with Red's sudden appearance. Then he noticed me. You brought Half Moon on a job? I know you don't exactly think like the rest of us, Red, but you're still family. Red's bottom lip jutted out. You just can't go in there, he said stubbornly. That's all. Papa emerged from the bush. Quite a bit of it stayed in his hair. With the orange glow behind him, Papa looked like a caveman emerging from a hole in time. Listen, son, we all know how you feel, but I'm the way I am. Stop fighting it. Just accept it. Nothing's going to happen to me. I've never been caught. You know that. I'm too clever for the police. Can't we talk about this at home? Asked Red. We need to go home. Why do we have to go home tonight? Asked Papa suspiciously. You never came after me before. I thought I would fill in the details. Mert Horahan is on his way. That was as far as I got because Papa's eyes were wide and his voice grew loud. Mert Horahan? Sergeant Horahan, you've gone over to the other side then, Red? Did you turn me in? Red rolled his eyes at me. Well done, Half Moon, said the eyes. No, of course not. I would never do that. We were here to save you. Red stood his ground. Don't do it, Papa. Trust me. You go in there and you're in prison and we're in care. Is that what you want? It's not what Mom wanted. Papa was quite furious. That's it, he said, pointing a finger bigger than a hot dog. The line is crossed. Don't you throw your mother at me. You were barely 5. I know what she wanted, insisted Red. You know nothing, shouted Papa. This is me, Red, in front of you. I am your family, not your unwelcomed guest. No offense, Half Moon. None taken, I mumbled. This is my life. He simply pointed towards the... This is my life, said Papa, spreading his arms. What do you want me to do about it? Red said nothing. He simply pointed toward the main road. A solitary pair of headlights bobbed through the darkness, and then turned in to the industrial estate. The car materialized under the street lamp glow. It was a squad car with a crumpled rear bumper. The car disappeared from view around the front of the warehouse. It did not reappear at the other side. Papa stuffed a toolkit under his arm. Home, he ordered. This conversation is not over. Back to Ches Sharkey for the final time. There wasn't much said on the way. This would be my last night here, one way or the other, even if we hadn't steered Mert to the clipboard. The 24 hours that Papa had given us to break the case were almost up. As it turned out, it hadn't even taken us that long. The police watch hadn't stretched to another shift, so we were able to walk through the front yard. Red and I dawdled at the door, reluctant to face Papa again. "I have to sort out this family thing," said Red. "It could be loud, Half Moon, so why don't you go home now?" I had asked myself that same question. I was desperate to see my parents and sister, but I needed to be strong for a few more hours until Mert had sewn it all up. It would be fascinating to see how it all tied together. Because it's not 100% yet. It may take the night for Mert to trace everything we've been accused of back to April and her gang. I want all the loose ends tied up before I turn myself in. Papa was waiting for us in the kitchen. The trip home had given him the opportunity to calm down, but he hadn't taken it. "In here, the two of you," he roared. We considered disobeying, but not for long. Papa's eyes sparkled with annoyance from below brows that could have taken a few braids. All the man needed was a helmet with horns, and he could have been a Viking. "Right, Red, start talking. What exactly is going on in that head of yours?" "It doesn't have to be like this," whispered Red, his eyes on the floor. "You've made your choice, and so has Jeannie, but me and Roddy don't have to have the same life." Herod laughed. "I want to do it. I have every video game in the charts in my bedroom. I don't need friends. I just need my console and a bag of candy." Papa was taken back. "You have us too, Roddy boy." "For now," said Red louder. "Until you go to jail along with Arthur and Uncle Pete and Mad, Mary, and Ellen. There'll be a whole wing of Sharkies soon. If it wasn't for Half Moon, you'd be in a cell right now." Herod spoke quietly. "Are you going to jail, Papa? When?" Papa frowned. "No, I'm not going to jail." "Me neither," added Jeannie. "I'm too fashionable for those orange suits." Red was determined to make his point. "Tell him the truth before you dragged him into a life of robbing and thieving." Papa was flabbergasted. I got the impression that this was the first time one of his children had ever pressed him on this subject. He recovered and tried to joke his way out. "Ah, now, Red boy," he sang, dancing his way past the kitchen table. "We're hardly master criminals. Just shave a bit off here, skim a bit off there." He took Red in his arms, waltzing him around the kitchen. "Relax, little man. Aren't we happy? Don't we get along just fine?" Jeannie and Herod were dancing too. Red broke away from his father. "Mom made me promise," he cried, his eyes wide and rebellious. "I was only 5, but Maud made me promise that I'd keep an eye on Roddy. But how can I, with the pair of you up to your armpits in every swindle going? What kind of example are you?" This was family stuff. I should be elsewhere, home with my own family, having our own fights. Suddenly I longed for some of Hazel's drama queen hysterics. I would even wear whatever shirt Mom picked out for me. And Dad, just thinking about them made my insides hurt. I wanted to throw up, then sleep for a few days. Papa had stopped dancing. "You promised your mother? She asked you? Hardly more than a baby? Why not me?" He already knew the answer, but Red told him anyway. "You'll never change, but there's still time for Roddy and me. We can be normal." "I don't want to be normal," stated Herod. "What am I going to do? Be a private eye like you and your new best nerd friend?" Red was upset now. "You're too young to know what you want." He sat at the table, hiding his face in his hands. Herod laughed. "Sure, have a little cry there, Mary. Should I get you a hanky?" "Shut up, Roddy," snapped Jeannie. Her eyes were brimming with tears. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Red spoke between his fingers. "I was trying to keep an eye on the sly, not turn everyone against me. It's getting too much. Herod is a one-man crime wave at school. The police are already watching him. For his 16th birthday, he's going to get a set of handcuffs." Jeannie took a tissue from her sleeve and wiped her eyes. "Papa, maybe Red is right." Pop threw up his meaty arms. Another one! Are you all against me? Jeannie stood her ground. Don't take it personal. We're not against you. We're for Mom and Roddy, too. Papa's fingers disappeared inside his beard as he scratched his chin. Well, maybe I could rein him in a bit. What? Yelped Herod. You can't rein me in, especially not because of Red. Herod had forgotten you don't give orders to Papa. I can't rein you in, he thundered. Can't? I am the master of this house. You will do as I say. From now on, school 3 days a week and no robbing. 3 days a week? Howled Herod. I'm not a robot. Papa's mind was made up. 3 days a week. That's it. Maybe 4 after Christmas. Herod ran to his room, howling like a wolverine. He did pause on the way past to punch me on the arm. I know this is your fault, Half Moon, he said, before disappearing down the corridor. Papa turned his gaze to me. How long have you been hanging around? He asked, as if all this family upheaval had been my fault. Just today. Seems longer. Anyway, your time is up in the morning. I know, 24 hours. It's okay, Papa. It's all over. We cracked the case. By morning, we'll be in the clear. Then he can go home, and we can all get back to normal. Papa slowly nodded. All over? Wrapped up quick and easy? I have an instinct for crime. This isn't over. Nobody's going back to normal just yet. Instincts versus facts. Papa had one, I had the other. I was right. This case was dead and buried, and there was only 2 ways something can come back from the dead. 1 in dreams, and 2 if someone had buried the wrong body. I felt a twinge of doubt in my stomach. I need to go to my room, I said. I have to check my notes. My files were where I had left them, strewn across the furniture and floor. Generally, when a case is wrapped up, hindsight makes it easy to connect the dots. When you know who done it and why they done it, how they done it is not so difficult. So April Devereaux wanted to get rid of the troublesome boys in her class. What does that have to do with May Devereaux or Andrea McCoy or Isabel French or Mara Mernon? On the face of it, nothing. But there must be some method in her madness. Some ripple effect. It was possible to know without the clipboard. It was impossible to know without the clipboard. Mert would figure it out. He would slot the pieces of jigsaw into place, and I would be welcomed back into law-abiding society with bear hugs and sloppy kisses. I lay on the bed among files and photos, the ancient mattress sagging alarmingly under my slight weight. Mom, Dad, Hazel, sorry, home soon, love Fletcher, Watson, Sharkey, Half Moon, Moon. I was getting all emotional, running through reunion scenarios in my head. An alarming number of them ended with me being grounded until I got married and moved out. You know you're in trouble when your own imagination starts punishing you. What have les genues étudiants got to do with you? It was an annoying question because I didn't have an answer for it. Why had April and her comrades targeted me? I couldn't trace it back. The more I thought about it, the more it seemed that there were 2 separate cases here. Was it just as Mert had said on the park bench a lifetime ago? Sometimes when you can't find a pattern, it's because there's more than one. 2 sets of criminals, les genes étudiants and the mystery giant? Could that be? Had I simply stumbled across April Devereaux's grand plan by throwing a dart at a photograph? No, I decided not possible. The town of Locke was simply not big enough to support 2 conspiracies. There must be connections running web-like between the victims. I would have to be patient. All would be clear in the morning, as the weather forecaster said to the public. Except for those weather forecasters were always getting it wrong. My body fell asleep because it was so utterly physically exhausted. But I swear my brain stayed awake all night worrying. What if we were wrong? What if our giant was still out there lurking in the bushes, looking for the next victim on his list? By 8:30 a.m. I was up and dressed, pacing the hall outside Red's room. "Are you awake?" I shouted, rapping on the door. Jeannie's voice wafted through the adjacent wall. "Shut up, Half Moon. It's the middle of the night." Red appeared at the door, his red hair standing in pyramid spikes. "I need your phone," I said, flapping my fingers. "Quick!" Red threw his cell phone at me. "You're calling home, right? To tell them you're on your way?" "No, I need to talk to Mert." Red snatched the phone away from me and in mid-dial. "Are you mental? Never call a policeman in the morning, don't you know that?" "Need to know if we're clear." "Of course we're clear, Half Moon. April and her weirdo friends were behind everything." "Maybe, but maybe not." Red sighed. "You are so paranoid, Half Moon." He handed the phone back. "Go on, put yourself out of your misery." I tapped in the number, and Mert answered on the 8th ring. "Sergeant Hurricane." "Don't you know better than to ring a policeman in the morning, whoever you are?" "Mert, it's Fletcher." I could hear Mert breathing loudly through the earpiece. It sounded as though he was trying to calm himself. "Fletcher Moon," he said at last. "You made a right monkey out of me, Fletcher, or should I say Watson?" Mert had put 2 and 2 together, and a lot quicker than I thought he would. "Cassidy told me about the new Sharky, and April just confirmed my suspicions. I'm on my way over. Do yourself a favor. Be there." I had no time for this. "Am I clear for the arson?" "Listen to me, Fletcher. Forget this tomfoolery. You're in enough trouble." "Am I clear?" I shouted into the phone. "Did the clipboard clear Red of me?" Silence for a moment, probably while Mert waited for the ringing in his ears to stop. "I think it's a crime to hourly assault a police officer. And in answer to your shouted question, no, the clipboard didn't mention you or your partner in crime. You still have a lot of questions to answer. I can't help you if you won't stay still to be helped." My heart dropped to the seat of my pants. We weren't clear. Our giant was still at large. "Sorry, Mert. I have to go. Give me 12 hours. Mert laughed. 12 hours? You're funny, Fletcher. Really, we have to have a laugh about this when we meet. Of course, there'll be a sheet of plexiglass between us." "Sorry, Mert." "Don't do it, Fletcher. I've got to go." "Fletch." I cut him off. Red had picked up the gist of the conversation. "The police are still after us." "Yes, Mert is on the way." Red tried to smooth his hair, with mixed results. "Okay, we're really under pressure here, Half Moon. What have you got?" The question hit me like a whack of a shovel. "Nothing. I have nothing. I need more information." Red pulled on a sweatshirt. "What kind of information?" "Facts about the victims. I need to find another link." Red checked up and down the corridor. "What if I knew someone who could give you that information?" "Let's go. Mert is on his way." "What about breakfast?" moaned Red. "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day." I zipped up my garish tracksuit. "Well, either we skip it or we have it in the cells."